Now, they may want to tan. They may go to the sun parlor. But they don't want to be permanently tan. They want white to survive. And I have asked audiences of white people, do you want your children to be colored? Do you want your grandchildren to be colored? Do you want your great-great-grandchildren to be colored? Great-great-great-great-great-great-great. And they say no. So I say, if you mean that, it means that you have to be doing something to make certain that white does not disappear. And that's what racism is all about. So this study, these several studies that are reported in this February the 21st article from the New York Times, when it says most white people have an anti-black bias, or most white people seem to have a hidden racial bias. Yes, that's correct. And there's no point in us as black people getting upset and falling all out of our chairs because of it. We need to understand. Instead of saying, why don't you like us? We need to understand they are in fear of their genetic annihilation. And they have to act accordingly, because that's what they structured consciously and or subconsciously for their genetic survival on this planet. Now, if black people are waiting for white people to love them, then they feel like crying when I say this. See, that's where it gets to 40% of blacks. Only 40%, that's not even half of us, are pro-black. We would prefer, because this is what we have been taught from the days of formal enslavement, when we were being beaten, raped, separated, children separated from parents, parents separated from each other. We wished that somehow white people would start liking black people. And then we were given a religion that told us a white man that's called Jesus loved us. He just happened to look just like the slave master. But we were waiting. Don't be offended, I'm baptized Baptist, Christian, AME. But this is the system that we are entrapped in, because we don't understand, and because we have been taught what? A white female who was at the Race Relations Institute at Fisk University told a young black man several years ago, because he said he didn't want to talk about racism, because he's a young black man. He said he was a Christian. And so she said to him, this is an older white female, look, we gave you that religion. And we taught you 3 essential things. Slave, obey your master. Turn the other cheek. And you will get your reward in heaven. Now that's what she said, a southern white woman. We gave you that religion. You see, but we have been programmed to wait. Jesus, save us. White supremacy, save us. See, we don't realize that this is what is going through the computer. But once you look at an image and you're taught to see a white image and somebody says, this is the Son of God, your brain computer has already raced forward unbeknownst to your conscious mind, that God is also white. I remember as a child, and I never even said it to my parents, that I thought, you know, when I was about that big, and we used to have a pantry, and on the first shelf was all the big items, and there was a big box, that red, white, and blue box of Quaker Oats. I used to think that that was God. You know, my little computer said, oh, this Sunday school card picture of Jesus, this younger looking man with this long hair. Well, here's this man with this white hair, and I guess I was computing, since you say, you know, thank you, whatever the blessing is, and we thank you for this food. So I said, well, that must be God on the Quaker Oats box. But I can guarantee you that if you computed that Jesus was the Son of God, your brain computer did the same thing. And that's how come black people, if you say many times, what color is God, they don't want to say white. They say God doesn't have a color. But if the sun has a color, it's like a white man was involved with some drug treatment program of black people. This was some years back. And so there was a conference, and so this white man was talking to me, and he said that he didn't see color. And so I asked him, what color socks did he have on? And he did like this. You know, showed, I have on some dark socks. I said, I thought you didn't see color. See, that's a myth. And people who want to talk about a colorblind society, like that's somehow post-racial. Colorblind simply means, in the system of racism, blind to the interest of colored people. Blind to the interest of colored people. So once I understood about the system and why the system works, why it was set up to work. See, if you want to understand people, and this is what psychiatrists do, at least my kind of psychiatrist, not the psychiatrist that just pulls out a prescription pad and says, oh, you're anxious, here's your prescription. Oh, you're depressed, here's your prescription. Oh, you're bipolar, here. No, I try to help people understand why their behavior might be going in a particular direction. Because if they can understand why, they can be in charge of changing the behavior. But if people don't want you to have the power to be in charge of understanding yourself, understanding your behavior, and be in charge of how you can change your behavior, that means that you will always be at their mercy. So understanding why people who classify themselves as white. Now, I came up with this 40 years ago, and here's an article in the New York Times, 2009, wondering why so many people have this anti-black. This is a question right in this article. So why do so many people have this anti-black bias? Well, the white people have it because their fundamental motivation on planet Earth and any of its locations on the map is to survive genetically. So when the new first black Attorney General, Eric Holder, came out and said that most Americans are in relationship to talking about racism, that they're cowards. Did anybody here take offense at that? I saw somebody's hand go up and it went down quickly. See, being a coward is just being afraid to deal with something dangerous. Look it up in the dictionary. It's not a bad word, it's an English word. Or cowardice. These are English words. Fear of dealing with something disturbing, upsetting. So Eric Holder, Attorney General Eric Holder, was right on the money. And this article is entitled, "A Nation of Cowards?" ? Coming right behind what Eric Holder said, documenting that people don't want to talk about racism or deal with it. The article even goes on to talk about the fact that so many white people don't want to appear in front of black people to be prejudiced. But it takes so much energy. That's what they found in the study. It takes so much energy, they become exhausted. Heart attack. Yes, because imagine if they focused on racism. Just imagine that you woke up on Tuesday morning and the white people came out and said, "Oh, wow, now we understand why we deal with black people the way that we do. We are fearful of our genetic annihilation." Then all the people of color on the planet, who are the 9/10 global majority, they would wake up and say, "Wow, we didn't understand that. Now we understand you, so we can checkmate you. You really were not interested in weapons of mass destruction, other than the genetics of mass destruction. You really weren't looking for weapons of mass destruction, because with the vulnerability about being able to be genetically annihilated and realizing that you are not the majority but a tiny, tiny minority, that fosters a sense of, I have to have everything. I have to have all of the oil, all of the minerals in Africa and in the Middle East. No matter how many people have to die, I have to have it all. We're in all this turmoil about the economy. If you understand the mindset of racism, white supremacy, it's I gotta have all the money no matter how I have to get it. If everybody has to lose their house, everybody has to lose their pension, so be it. And then when they break down white upper class, white middle class, lower class, it even gets into white people doing it to themselves and each other, but the upper class has to get all of the trillion. So understanding racism sets up the possibility if people can talk about reality. And we were taught in psychiatry, the role of the psychiatrist is to help people face reality, even when they are afraid to do so. But if we understood racism, we would understand why are so many black men incarcerated. If there is a fear of genetic annihilation, who becomes the number one enemy of the state? It's not the black female, because she cannot impose sexual intercourse. It's only males, whether they're black, brown, red, or yellow, who can impose sexual intercourse. If the female were to have a weapon and frighten the man, she couldn't make him have sexual intercourse, because when he's afraid, what happens, gentlemen? He won't stand up, right? That's just basic physiology. Do you see? But all of these images of apes. There's an article in today's New York Times. Fortunately, I got the newspaper when I was coming up from D.C. on the train. And a black writer named Brent Staples, who's writing for the New York Times, wrote about the role of gorillas and apes. Thomas Jefferson said that black women like to have sex with apes. Thomas Jefferson. Get the newspaper, it's still out on the stand. But what was he doing? If black women, well, I'm sure Sally didn't like what was happening to her. But he was having sex with black women at the same time talking about Negroes are more animal-like and ape-like, more animal than human. And this is a continuous theme. Big black ape, King Kong, anybody? What about the white lady in New York? No, Connecticut, I believe. In Connecticut, the white lady whose ape, chimpanzee, attacked her friend. What did the details of the story reveal? She was feeding the chimpanzee, who weighed between 175 and 200 pounds. It wasn't a little baby monkey. He was a real big guy. She was feeding him filet mignon, drinking wine with him. I'm not through. Bathing with him. And sleeping with him. Reported in the New York Post. And so then what did the police come along and do? They shot him. Now when, this is the end of Black History Month, but in the not too distant past, when a black man was found in some kind of relationship with a white woman, what did white men do? Kill him too. Do you all understand how this is all tied together? This is not mystery. And this is why we have to read and read and read and read, because everything they do is in print. Repeat after me. Reading is more important than watching TV. Say it again. Reading is more important than watching TV. See, the television is a programming device. They had articles coming out this week talking about young people, children, female children, who watch a lot of the programs that have sexual activity are more likely to become pregnant as teenagers. Also talking about the music that is listened to. See, one of the things that has happened to us is that we thought that we did not have to be on our own course anymore, and that we had become integrated so that the television could become the children's most important parent. Teaching. See, if you don't think that the television teaches white supremacy. That's why if you turn it on, you're just going to see white, 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 white. Then when you see some buffoon clowning, people climbing over furniture. That's monkey activity. That's what it is saying about us. It's just like CNN. How do we counter the intelligent appearance of Barack Obama? No, we'll put D.L. Hughley on and have him do a buffoon clowning act in the news channel. So this, anybody who looks at the TV and says, oh, President Obama is intelligent, then comes on D.L. Hughley. Do you see? But that's also like saying or looking at what is the importance. I can't think of his name right this second, slipping. You know, the black movie producer? Tyler Perry. See, now think, the system of racism seeks to annihilate the masculinity of the black male, because the black male is perceived as the threat, the potential threat that can cause white genetic annihilation. Now, I'm not talking about black men chasing down white women. I'm talking about white women chasing down black men. Just like King Kong was made to counter what was happening with Jack Johnson, the prize fighter. See, there are books about this. The white women were chasing him and he would get involved with them. And so then they started portraying King Kong being after Fay Ray. So if the target is the black male, you can lock him up forever. See, but I say, look at Bernard Madoff, who is supposed to take $50 billion. He's not behind bars. He's at home in a $7 million apartment. But lock up black men, Michael Phelps, a swimmer, with his marijuana or whatever. He wasn't locked up. No, but every chance you get, lock up the people that you think are the threat to white genetic survival. Because white females say their ideal mate is who? Tall, dark, and handsome. Not tall, blonde. The lady was feeding the chimpanzee chocolates. See, why do they go on and on about chocolate at Valentine's Day? So dark, and so rich, and so erotic. Dark chocolate. The darker the better, hopefully with nuts. See, all of this is wrapped up in the subconscious cultural expression. That's like the society that teaches black people the more color they have, the more melanin pigment they have, the uglier they are supposed to be. But white people cannot get enough of drinking black coffee and Coca-Cola and tea. Everything has to be dark that I'm taking in because I wish I was dark. But I'm not dark, so I'm going to attack dark. You see, but when the system of racism, white supremacy necessitates attacking black men, then that undermines the functioning of our family life. Men have to be employed if they are going to function as husbands and fathers. The system of racism says, I will control that because I don't want a powerful enemy. I want people who cannot oppose me. I want people that maybe I'll turn into females. I can do that by putting them in prisons for long periods of time. If I don't give them chemicals outright. They've got chemicals that turn male frogs into females. Or fish into females. The chemicals are found in baby bottles, other kinds of plastics. So if you had the problem that the system of white supremacy has, would you think about distributing the chemicals? That's like if you are worried about being overtaken by black people, would you tell your scientists, make a virus for me that will knock out the immune system? HIV/AIDS is not an accident. But who did they blame? A green monkey who actually has a black face. They said the Africans must have eaten the green monkey or had sex with the green monkey, and that's how the white monkeys explain it. I hope you all got that. See, if this was a genuine disease falling out of the sky, there are public health principles. When a disease is deadly, life-taking, and there's supposed to be no cures, and unaffected by any antibiotics, the first thing you do is case find and quarantine to stop the spread. They haven't done that yet. They don't even impose, if you wanted to help black people, you would do mandatory testing. Just like you have to pay income tax, you have to be tested. Everybody has to be tested. Red, yellow, black, white, green, purple, everybody has to be tested because we don't want the disease to spread. But if you want the disease to spread, you just step back and let it spread. And then you have BET come along with all these sex-driven videos and sex-driven music that is saying, have sex, have sex, have sex, have sex. Don't think about it, don't think about it. Have sex, have sex, have sex, have sex. Pass my disease, pass my disease. I'm not talking about hating white people, but I am talking about understanding what they're doing. If you were sitting at a chessboard, it would be a waste of time to hate the person who's playing on the white side of the chessboard if you're on the black side. All you want to do is understand precisely what the game is all about, so that you can play from your side of the board with authority. You see, but this wait on Jesus. See, if we just knew that the word Jesus in Ebonics spells just us. Just us. So it's waiting on just us. The people that the Creator made the first people on planet Earth. The first people to know about family life. The first people to know about God. The first people to know about mathematics. The first people to know about architecture, science. The Creator made us the first people. And I think the Creator is waiting on us. Talk about we're waiting on Him, He's waiting on us. It's like if I gave you everything, and if everybody came from you, nobody can be more than you. White skin is a genetic mutation to albinism. It is a genetic deficiency state, not defined by Cress Welsing, but defined by white geneticists when they didn't think that they were talking about themselves. But every other case of albinism where white comes from black, whether it's a white tiger, a white boa constrictor, a white kangaroo, a white elephant, a white tiger, the parents are always of color. And so when the offspring comes out without color, that's a genetic deficiency. And on the continent of Africa, black people started putting the albino mutants out. And when they were put out, they wandered north into Europe. And that is where white people came from. But then they came organized for thousands of years, coming out of the caves and whatever, organized themselves, practiced waging war everywhere, and they came right back home to Africa and started enslaving black people and bringing them to America and say, now you're going to put that black baby out in that box in the field, and you are going to nurse these white babies, and you are going to take care of us for free. Otherwise, we're going to beat you to death. Now, isn't that a turnaround? I said that to an audience of white people in New Hampshire. I said, maybe we owe you all an apology. Maybe we were the first child abusers when we put you out. And I thought they were going to storm the stage. They didn't. And I told them that's why they have, like Uncle Ben feeding them rice, Aunt Jemima feeding them pancakes. You see, always some black person, and the black woman was called Mammy. And the white female caretaker was called Nanny. That's a goat. But referring to the black woman as mother. Mammy and Pappy and Uncle and Auntie, those were our nicknames. Emphasizing that at some level in the psyche, they realized that they were related to us. But they were going to get their reparations. The enslavement as reparations for putting out the mutants from Africa. And what are they doing right today in Africa? Killing off as many black people as they can with HIV, AIDS, Ebola, malaria. Thousands of people who call themselves AIDS workers, not the disease, but bringing aid. You see, and then you see the white movie stars going over and putting little morsels of food in the mouths of black children. And we then sit back, oh, this is so wonderful. No, why don't they stop the racism, white supremacy, and let the African people benefit from the gold, the coltan, and the other minerals that are there? As opposed to pretending that you care and adopting little black children, pretending that you care. So we've already laid out, the white people have set up the system of racism, white supremacy. And let me just say this. See, white people don't call themselves Euro-Americans. They call themselves white all over this planet. So they stay focused on what the issue really is. And because they have programmed us to dislike ourselves and not wanting to say black, call yourself Afro-Americans or African-Americans. The game is not, which is like saying black-white, as opposed to black. They're white, we're black. We're shades of black. If we respected ourselves, see, that's why the little test and the little study that they did showed only 40% of us are pro-black. Because we've been programmed to wish we were white. See, if I invented 3 pills and went on eBay, I could retire. The 3 pills would be, the first pill you take on Monday, it'll turn you white. The second pill, let's call that first one the white pill. The pill you take on Tuesday is the blue pill. It will make your hair long and straight. And the third pill you take on Thursday with a glass of water. And it will give you white features. Now, if I went on eBay, I'd have $100 trillion by the end of the week. I could charge whatever I wanted to charge, because all of the colored people on the planet who have been brought under domination by people who classify themselves as white would all be trying to get my pills. And I wouldn't have to go to my office anymore. Do you all understand? And that's why the little charts, 70-something% of white people are pro-white. Hispanics, 70-something%. Asians, everybody pro-white. But the article said that the black people had less prejudice than any other group. No, because we don't have to be afraid of annihilation. We got so much melanin. We don't have to be afraid that somebody with their genetic material can make us disappear. Now, somebody with their weapons, with their psychological warfare weapons, with their biological warfare weapons, with their chemical weapons, and with their guns, can make us disappear. But if we begin to understand and be determined that we are going to somehow find our way to deeply valuing and respecting ourselves. I say self-respect is the most powerful weapon on this planet. That's what won the Vietnam War for the Vietnamese. Little tiny brown people, impoverished, but with their leadership, they said, if every single one of us has to die, you with all of your power and all of your weapons are going to leave. And the white people and the people they had recruited to help them found themselves jumping on helicopters and wondering how did they lose when they had all of the weapons. But they were up against self-respect, which is not something that can be faked. It can be demonstrated with a loud voice. It is something that is deep within, a conviction about self, a conviction and an understanding about why the Creator made us the first people on the planet. And I think the Creator is sitting back with his or her arms folded and saying, don't call on me. I gave you everything to work with. Now I'm going to step back and see if you appreciate what I have given you. See, I say George Washington Carver, crystal black man. They called him a wizard. But he was able to go out amongst plants, and the plants would communicate with, I maintain, his melanin. It's a pigment. Black is a superior absorber of energy. And so everything is energy frequency. So he said he would go out in the quiet of the morning, and the plants would tell him what they could do. Now imagine if our melanin would work for us. The old people used to say the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. If it ain't got no soul, it ain't got no use. But we gave up on loving black. But the white people didn't give up on understanding black. So when somebody attains knowledge, they put on a black robe. When somebody understands justice, supposedly, and is called a judge, they put on a black robe. When somebody is supposed to have knowledge of God, they stand in the pulpit in a black robe. When the white people consider themselves highly dressed up, the man is going to put on black ties and tails like a long thing hanging down in the back instead of in the front. I hope you got that. And the white female, if she wants to have on her most sophisticated dress, what color is it? It's not orange. It's not white. It's black. Basic black. So what are we to do on our side of the chessboard? We've got to understand what the game is all about. Heretofore, it's like we've been taking a tennis racket and going on the football field and wondering why we're not scoring. We don't understand the game. Then we have to determine. The people who classify themselves as white are not going to save black family life. Why should they? They're trying to survive themselves. So we, with our self-respect, have to determine. See, we have to determine. We're not making any more throwaway children. See, it's very quiet in here. The vibe dropped to the floor. See, when it comes to what we must do, how we must transform ourselves, then we get nervous. It just means that we have to ratchet up our self-respect. Because the Creator is saying, it's about time you all figured out what's going on. I'm not going to spoon feed you through this, because I made you so much that I don't need to spoon feed you. I just need you to get in touch with your self-respect, which is the highest form of spirituality. That if we believe in a superior force or superior being, however you want to label it, that is in charge of creating this universe and creating us, then the best antenna that I have is my self-respect. Saying to the creative force, thank you for making me me. I believe that the black people, they keep saying, how did the pyramids get built? I think that the people could, like Osiris was called Lord of the Perfect Black, that they have found out how to use their melanin and levitate those stones? I don't know. That's what I think, because people keep trying to figure out, how did they do that? Then some people have to come along and say some light-skinned people from outer space did it. So if we get in touch, we make it our responsibility, our challenge, to be all that we can be. Imagine if we started relating to the act of self-reproduction in a spiritual way. See, now don't misunderstand me. Sex is fabulous. So what? Do you jump out of a foxhole in the middle of the war and say, I got to get some? Running between bullets. See, we have played with, and it's not our fault. White supremacy says, I'm going to make you breeders and studs so that you produce more slaves for my plantation. Update it. I want you to keep on breeding and studying so that you make candidates for my prison industrial system. And I'm going to pay them slave wages when they're in there. Do you all understand? So if we got wise, if we got deeply wise, see, because you can make sex obsession in people. How do you do it? You don't meet the emotional needs of little children. You don't give them the lap time that they need. Get off of me. You're too big. You're too heavy. That's somebody 18 months. Because the parent is too young. So my formula is, and when I give it, that's when people generally, it's time for her to go home. See, in other words, we have to produce an army that is going to participate in bringing justice to this planet. I'm not saying hate white people. I'm not saying kill white people. You see, but they can't tolerate self-respect in black people. See, if they walk down the street and they encounter, oh wow, that one seems to have self-respect. I'm just looking at his face. I'm just looking at her eyes. And these are not people that are glaring at white people. But when they encounter enough, I think that they're going to jump on a spaceship and try to get to Mars or some other planet. But this has to be our challenge. If we want to make, see, I say that self-respect is the foundation for justice. So we want to make beings that understand self-respect. That means little children cannot be cursed at and name called. A parent in my office, I gotta watch the clock. Parent in my office last week said that her children were ridiculed in school when they said they didn't have 5 daddies at home. Are you all following me? 5 baby daddies. Don't feel bad. Just say, that's fascinating. See, I tell my patients, don't name call yourself. Don't say anything negative about yourself. Just say, that's interesting. That's fascinating. Because then you can keep looking at the behavior and make the changes. No, the system of white supremacy did this to us. They are not going to change it. They are on course for white genetic survival by any means necessary. See, there was a former Secretary of Agriculture. His name was Butts. And he said, in public, all black people want is tight pussy, loose shoes, and a warm place to piss. That's what a white man said about us after they had made us into what they needed us to be to maintain their system of racism, white supremacy. So every time they look at us, they can see inferiorization. And then by comparison, look at themselves and pat themselves on the back and say they're superior to us. So our business has to be, we are going to transform ourselves. We're not going to play with it, and we are going to take serious the factory where self-respect is made, and that's in the home and in the family. See, I want to see black men need to organize themselves. We got Barack Obama out there talking about jobs. There needs to be a dignified million-man black men saying, we are going to have jobs. We are going to have jobs. A man, we are not going to be going to prison. We are going to have jobs. We are going to take care of ourselves, our wives, and our children that have been denied us under the practices of racism, white supremacy. See, now, if we don't, as black men and women, and it's not just men, it's women also, who have to decide that they're going to participate. I was telling a patient in my office, what if some kind of meteorite, a whole ball of energy came and struck, and it transformed us as black women so that we would say, we're not going to have any sex until the men have jobs and they are employed. What do you think would happen? Don't anybody throw their shoes at me. Do you all understand? See, if we don't do this, white supremacy is going to march on. The only thing that is going to stop racism, white supremacy, is black self-respect. Black people in knowledge. Standing up and being the people that the Creator wants us to be. See, so if I could wave a magic wand and don't anybody shoot or taser me, I would say no black people can have any sex until they're married, and no marriage until the ladies are 30 and the men are 35. And no more than 2 and no closer together than 3 years apart. That will make an army. No closer together than 3 years apart. so all the little children get their dependency needs met. See, when they don't get their dependency needs met, by the time they get to school, the teacher says, now, boys and girls, we are going to practice doing our ABCs. And the little child who is dependency deprived says, I can't, teacher. I can't do it. But if the teacher goes and sits down with the child, holds the child on her lap, takes his hand or her hand and starts guiding it, doing the work that should have been done at home, then the child will start saying, I think I can. I think I can. I can. So we've got to, see, it would frighten white supremacy if they said something going on with our colored people. Something is going on with them. They're talking about spending the first 30 years getting an education and as much training as they can get. See, what do the Asians say? Oh, we no date. We no date until we finish college. So they're doing better than everybody else. What if we no date? See, you can look at people, compliment them. Oh no. And there were people who start saying they're wearing out the chairs in the library. We've never seen anything like this. This is like the black people have become some kind of tsunami in their determination to learn and master everything. We've never seen anything like it. Now we know about Richard Williams, that man who is the father of Venus and Serena, with his no-tooth self. But he decided, looking at television and looking at how much money people made if they learned how to play tennis, and he said, I'm going to make me two of them. Not I'm going to train the ones I already have. I'm going to start from the beginning and make two who are going to be 1 and 2 in the world. Nobody in the history of tennis has done anything like it. That's a black man saying, this is what I'm going to do. And he did it. So we need to adopt from Barack Obama, we can, we will. We'll show the world who the Creator made black people to be. I'm going to run over the basic exercises that are in the work of Neely Fuller. See, these are little basic exercises that people can pick and choose what they're going to practice. But imagine what we would be like if we just made this kindergarten level. He calls them counter-racism. I call them exercises in black mental health and black self-respect, creating a culture of counter-racism. Stop name-calling one another. Stop gossiping about one another. Stop cursing one another. Stop squabbling with one another. Stop being discourteous and disrespectful to one another. My favorite example of being discourteous is you walk into a store, it's another black person, tragically sometimes a female, and you're standing there waiting to get service, and she will be damned if she's going to look up and say, "May I help you?" She's making some notes. She might be on the cell phone talking to a friend. You all get what I'm talking about? Imagine if that never happened. See, imagine how you feel when you're going through it. And imagine if it never happened, how you would feel. See, all of this negativity is produced by racism. Racism is causing the high blood pressure. But the immediate nexus is us in relationship to each other. Stop being discourteous. Stop being disrespectful. Stop stealing from one another. Stop robbing one another. Stop fighting one another. See, what if the white people woke up one day and said, we can't get them to fight with each other? See, the white people in this current political scene said, now what we're going to do is we're going to put a black man as head of the Republican Party. And then we're going to put a black man, although he's from the subcontinent, his parents are. He's governor of Louisiana. Now we're going to use these two colored men to knock down this colored man named Barack Obama. Do you all understand? Let's give them an A. They're working their side of the board. Unjust, but they say we got to survive. We're a tiny minority, genetic recessive. We got to survive by any means necessary. It has worked throughout our history, being able to pit the colored people against each other, whether it's on the continent of Africa, the subcontinent of India, the Middle East, and all over, wherever they are. I'm going to teach them to love me, hate themselves, and then they will hate each other. Stop making black children think that as children they can be adequate mothers and fathers. Stop using and selling drugs to one another. Stop throwing down trash where black people live, work, and play. No paper, no bottles, no plastic bags. You're telling me shut up. Okay, I'll stop. Stop pretending that racism, white supremacy does not exist. Stop allowing racism, white supremacy, dividing black, brown, red, and yellow people. Thank you very much.
Give it up again for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Get you a chair. So get you a chair. We're going to do a question and answer period from Dr. Wells. Anybody got any questions they want to ask? Oh, it's a whole bunch of people say they got some questions they want to ask, right? All right. Did you enjoy the presentation? All right, give another big round of applause from Tubman City. What we're going to do right now, if you can hold your positions for just a second, just a few announcements that we want to make. If you can just hold your position for a few seconds before we get into question and answer. We'll take a little brief intermission, like 10 minutes, because we're running out of time. We want to try to raise some donations. We had Sojourner Douglas College. Give Sojourner Douglas College a big round of applause. We want to give all the performers.
Good evening, Dr. Welsing. I told you I love the book and I really enjoy being here. Can you hear me? Okay, all right. I don't know if you know it or not, but today they had Tavis Smiley hosted his State of the Black Union today, and there's some excellent speakers. I mean, those speakers were bad, but I was telling my mother later, afterward, that it seems like you have some excellent speakers, but at the same time, it seems like they have it once a year, always like the last, day of Black History Month. But to make a long story short, it seems like it's more style than substance, and that you have some fantastic speakers, some very intelligent brothers and sisters up there on the stand. But the thing I don't understand is that why isn't that, it seems like after they have that Black State of the Union, there's no follow-through. There's no plan of action. You have everybody who speaks well. Matter of fact, Tavis just released a book, I forgot, called Accountability. Because, President Barack Obama, just got, elected, president and all that stuff. So I was just wondering, simply put, what is your opinion of the State of the Black Union stuff? Because the panel speaks very, very well. There, Maxine Waters on there, Al Sharpton, Dr. Naeem Magbar. He's a psychologist also. And I was just wondering, what's your opinion of that kind of stuff, and is it effective? That's all.
My comment would be this, that in the past, and I didn't see it today, but my experience would be that no one is talking about a system of racism, white supremacy. Do you see? And so and people are not permitted to talk about a system of racism, white supremacy, and keep jobs or keep positions. And so it would be like a doctor who the patient has a number of symptoms, let's say 5 symptoms, and instead of the doctor saying, how are these symptoms related and what disease is causing it, the doctor just treats one symptom at a time, but never asks, what is the disease? Do you see? So we're not really permitted to talk about racism, white supremacy, and so you just keep talking about the symptoms, and you can talk about the symptoms for 100 years. But until you get down to talking about the system of racism, white supremacy that is causing this, and so black people know what to do about it, specifically in order for it to really be removed based on black people's efforts, not on grants. Okay, that would be my thought.
How you doing, sister?
Hi, how are you?
Good. My name is Brother Israel Nayabingi. A brother earlier spoke about a pan-African nationalist army, and I heard you speak something earlier, to that tune. First of all, as a student of military science and as a former U.S. Army soldier, I would like to offer my services, and also I would like you to speak to the audience that we have here today about what we could do to possibly encourage that type of structure today.
Well, see, I'm speaking from a point of view of understanding the system of white supremacy. And when I talked about the basic fundamental behaviors that people can practice, they may sound very simple, but if a system has trained a group of people to have a very low level of respect for themselves, so that they are being destructive to themselves and to one another, then the first step in countering is to understand exactly what the system is all about. And then understanding the importance of basic behaviors of self-respect. You see, because the system of racism causes us to disrespect ourselves and one another, whether it's male, male, female, female, male, female. Do you see, even in terms of so-called parents, the way they relate to their children. We have to understand the whys, and we have to decide, okay, these are the behaviors that I'm going to, it's like boot camp. These are the behaviors that I'm going to begin engaging in because I understand the system. Am I making myself? Do you see?
You mean on the level of discipline?
Organizing is not pulling people together as much as Neely Fuller talks about united, independent, compensatory action. So you don't have to have a group. You don't need anybody to go with you to practice stop gossiping or stop name calling. It just takes a person deciding, I think I'm going to practice no gossiping. And then maybe in a couple of months I can bring it up to no gossiping and no cursing one another. Do you see? So that the person is moving as an individual warrior, so to speak. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. Thank you.
I believe that you can't talk about racism without talking about the development of capitalism, which from historical terms we're talking about an evolution of 800 years. And based on your premise, from what I believe, based on your premise of white people genetically realize that they can be wiped out genetically, do you feel that that was an impetus of the Europeans when they wanted to develop the Western world? That was an impetus for them to go and seek out African people, knowing that their population was, historically, they had a low population, but that was the impetus for choosing African people?
Well, you see, when Columbus started the, what do you call them, voyages around the globe, I mean, that was, business, commerce in Europe. But once they began to come out and circumnavigate the planet and realize what their situation as white people was really, that they could experience genetic annihilation. And so when Neely Fuller talks about the system of racism, white supremacy, it encompasses economics. See, what they call capitalism, socialism, communism is just economic practices, even though they are different, so-called on the surface. They benefit people who classify themselves as white. And so racism encompasses all of those areas of activity. And as I said, the white people call them different things. They don't call what they're doing a system of racism, white supremacy. You see, they call it capitalism.
But I guess what I'm asking was that coincidental that they happened to get African people because it was coincidental or it was conscious?
I say that because they came out of us and we put them out of Africa. You see, it's like, somebody whose parents gave them up or put them up for adoption, and they get to be 25 years old and they say, I'm going in search of my parents. And so they knock on the door, they see their mother for the first time, and there's hesitancy, and then the child wants to hit the parent. Knock them out. Yes, I hope that gets close. I don't know. Go ahead.
As a black married woman, mother of two, how would you suggest I would reach other black females in what you were talking about, basically standing up and saying whether it's no sex or no relationships or, no dating or so forth, how would I, as a 30-year-old married black woman, approach, and who would I approach?
Well, I would say that if you have people that you are in contact with, whether they're in your family or just people that you know, or people at your church, you can just say, I encountered some interesting ideas and I want to share them. And if somebody says, I don't want to hear anything about racism, you just move on. No conflict. You see, but in the case that you encounter somebody that wants to talk about something other than a lot of foolishness, and you all can sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about some different ideas. Okay?
Okay, at this point, we're going to have to hurry up because we got to get Dr. Welsing to a train.
Yeah.
All right, to cut it short, Doc, I've been apprised of you and Dr. Fuller for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
The comment that Attorney General made about everybody being cowards, you think he'll be coming under more fire for that because they probably think he understands the system of white supremacy?
I don't know whether he understands it or not, but I'm going to send him a copy of the ISIS papers.
Good.
You see, and also I bought a card. I bought a thank you card, big thank you card, to send him and thanking him for having the courage to address racism.
Yes.
You see, he's the chief law enforcement person in the land. And he said it. Now, people jumped all over him. But if we give him our support, and I'm not talking about necessarily sending a card or anything, but it's like, no, this black man took the courage to say this in the face of opposition, and we respect him for it.
Definitely.
Okay, one more, yes.
No, but the radiation. That's why I'm dealing with it. You know, radiation.
Okay, go ahead and ask it.
I would say that they're dealing with the same problem of racism, white supremacy, whether they look at it in the way that I'm talking about it or not. But what we have to do is just like if a black person learns a new dance step, we put our arms around each other and show each other how to do it. Or if you hear a dirty joke, not you personally, but if you hear a joke, any kind of joke, people get on the phone call, the joke started in New York, it's in California in 48 hours. Because we teach one another. So, well, do you see? Oh, no, prejudice amongst us. Do you see what I'm saying? All over the world, black people have been taught to dislike themselves. People in Africa want to bleach their skin. People here want to bleach their skin. And look, white people in Asia want to bleach their skin. People in Brazil want to bleach their skin. We have all been contaminated and poisoned by white supremacy. So we first have to embrace ourselves and then embrace one another, understanding that we are all being hit by the same nuclear weapon. Gotta go, gotta get a train, right. Thank you.
Another big round of applause, Dr. Welsing. Remember, get your free tickets. Let's close out correctly if we all can stand and close out with our Harambes. If everyone can stand so we can close out with our Harambes. In Swahili, it means let us all pull together. We're going to do it 7 times, and the 7th time we're going to hold it as long as we possibly can. Then we're going to give an African a phone number, some money, a hug, or something to show some love, all right? Hold your black power fist in the air. 1, 2, 3. Harambe! 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 Give somebody some love. Thanks for coming out. Get your free tickets, and we hope you see you tomorrow. Brother Kidi Owadu.
Paradigm, from the Latin and Greek root, meaning a pattern of thinking, a cultural design of mind, a prism, refracting the light of your reality, or a prison, confining your thoughts in fantasies. Are you thinking your thoughts, or are your thoughts thinking you? Chill back, tune in, feel if anything rings true. We're gonna drop some verbal oxygen on you, allow you to choose red or blue. It's really up to you. Tell me, black people, feeds you? Who makes your clothes? Who fakes your fingernails and paints your toes? Who really owns your homes? Where is our community? Society's got our children desiring guns and sirens. Rites of passage slowly dying. You can hear the tree roots crying when it gets real quiet. But rarely do we dwell within the silence. How can we, with all the gratuitous sex and violence, religion and television, promoting anti-nutrition and fake immune syndromes? The time has come to replace indecision with inner vision, reclaim what's ours and change the rhythm. Instead of 40 acres in a mule, we got a 40 ounce in a tool. We became niggas with attitudes, with license to act a fool.
This is the album that'll shift your paradigm. Have you living another way in another time. Get you off the coke, dope, and ghetto wine. Start living in black and you'll shine. Yo, this is the album that'll shift your paradigm. Like Public Enemy in the summer of '89. Get to know thyself in the spiritual mind. Start living in black and you'll shine. Yo, this is the album that'll shift your paradigm. Make you change what you eat and take care of your shrine. Start cleansing your body and have a clear mind. Start living in black and you'll shine. This is the album that'll shift your paradigm. Have your people out who's black and who's lying. Have your peeking out who's faking and who's really trying. If you're living in black, you'll be shining.
These chocolate-covered crackers politicking on our behalf really make me laugh, but no wild, buffoonish, comic view type laughter, cause like BET, this ain't no laughing matter. Carefully selected, non-elected, morally bankrupt, corrupt black leaders holding their hands out like cups, begging the overseers to feed us, lobbying for some reparations. You really want to help us repair our situation? Help us get these silly niggas off the radio and TV stations. Help us get the children out the public food system so we can handle their education. Teach them skills to survive and create smarter generations, like how to till soil and cultivate vegetation, or how to reprogram computers to create their own animation instead of training for JOBs on the next man's plantation. See, we were better off in segregation. At least then we practiced cooperation and black economics. We used to actually talk to one another until they labeled it ebonics. From the penthouse to the projects, we seem to suffer the same ills. We eat whatever they feed us, get sick and take their pills. We used to own our own businesses, now we just get jobs and chill. We become slaves to what we see, hear, and feel. Spending hard-earned Skrilla on shiny jewels and fancy wheels. See them wits and chains, we desire them still. But it ain't too late to redirect that energy. It ain't too late to recognize the true enemy. It ain't too late for a poet and MC to remind us we got to get rough in order to get free.
No longer a slave to Viacom, but a registered firearm to spit the truth throughout the youth. When's the last time we turned lead to gold? The method's still here, but the story's untold. So now, who's gonna change the schools, change the books? Open your eyes and recognize the real crooks that burnt our books and wrote their own interpretation. And I'm supposed to follow that and forget about my nation? Never. My people too strong for that. Never. We suffered too long for that. I don't want reparations, I want the minds of our children back. Wealth will come as long as they stay intact. Growing up under the Patriot Act, that ain't black. Rough Mike, Freedom Writer. This is the album that'll shift your paradigm.
Yeah, they say that this is a historical moment, so allow me to get historical inside of this moment. My people, whatever you do, be for who be for you. Lucius Septimius Severus, O ye black emperor of Rome. Barack Hussein Obama, black president of the brave people's home. Lucius Septimius Severus, O ye black emperor of Rome. Lucius, born in Africa, this history is crazy. Septimius became the emperor of Rome in 193 AD. Severus, we had high hopes for you, every African man, woman, and baby. But you became the metaphor of a weeping willow tree, so sad, so shady. You went along with their brutality. You went along with their insanity. In disregard for non-Roman humanity, you rejected your own history and adopted a Roman identity. Lucius Septimius Severus, O ye black emperor of Rome. Barack Hussein Obama, black president of the brave people's home. Oprah Winfrey's best friend is influential and her name is Gail. All best friends are influential and Barack Obama's best friend seems to be Israel. Even with glowing lights and makeup, the ugly truth can never hide. A black leader from South Africa recently went to Israel and said the treatment of Palestinians looks just like apartheid. Some say your speech on race was a nice try. You've given the image that you're a very, very nice guy and an oh so peaceful man. But I've read the transcripts of your speeches and you want to bomb Iran and you want to expand the war in Afghanistan. Man, oh man, how will you explain to your daughters why Israel can have nuclear weapons but Iran cannot? How America can have nuclear weapons but Iran cannot? Hey, even South Africa under white rule could have nuclear weapons but Iran cannot. Without using double standards, giving an answer, you cannot. Lucius Septimius Severus, O ye black emperor of Rome. Barack Hussein Obama, black president of the brave people's home. Lucius Septimius Severus, O ye black emperor of Rome. You did not change the imperial policies of previous Caesars. You created fools out of those who were your serious believers. You defended the interests of Rome and not the interests of your father's home. You prided yourself as a black man who was a true patriot of Rome. You alone, man, became the most loyal Rome man. History is a current event, so the past is the present and the present is the past. To you, Rome came first and Africa came last. The perceived source of relief is the source of our belief. That's why we believed in you so prematurely. 2,000 seasons later, you think that we would mature, see? You with just your smile and an oath to defend all things Roman. In the autumn of 2008, will we still fall for seductive symbols and tokens? Lucius Septimius Severus, O ye black emperor of Rome. Barack Hussein Obama, black president of the brave people's home. So the next time you go to Florida on family vacation to scuba in Key Largo, look 90 miles to the south and explain why you kiss up to China but support the Cuban embargo. Does that make your sponsors giggle? Not a lot, but maybe a little. Will they quibble with this riddle? What's worse, the fact that Bill Clinton had Monica Lewinsky, or the fact that your top foreign policy advisor is Zbigniew Brzezinski? You know, one of the guys behind the Trilateral Commission. You know, one of the guys who believes that a lie is not a lie if it's a lie by omission. You know, one of the guys who believes that the rule of law is legal fiction. You know, one of the guys who is the prescription glasses to David Rockefeller's world domination blurry vision. You know, one of the guys who thinks that double speak is perfect diction. You know, one of the guys who thinks rubbing shoulders with evil is good for friction. But your supporters are electrified by you, galvanized by you, hypnotized and magnetized by you. They say you're playing chess on a very high level, but some of us don't play chess with the devil. We play a game called Confess with the Devil. No, some of us don't play chess with the devil. Yo, we play a game